Just imagine something that you had your eye on for like decades.
You learned the lessons of the first fight, and that was very clear.
It might sound weird to say this, but even though I didn't have a belt, I knew that I didn't lose that fight. How I gained my experience and how I learned about mixed martial art and my fighting IQ, how to manage fight, So I have a great outcome from that fight, and I believe that benefit will push me, rise me higher than this.
Hello. What a remarkable improvement. Francis Ngannou stating that his first defeat to Stipe Miocic was a victory in and of itself. Imagine that. Losing your shot at the belt and looking at it like it was a good thing, that it gave you the foundation needed to come back better the next time. And we saw just that. His words were not shallow in the slightest. Technically, physically, mentally, Francis Ngannou was a different tier of fighter. In this sense, honestly, I felt like Stipe Miocic should have just waited. He should have given at least 2 rounds figuring out how he can make Francis work, expend energy, have his massive muscles burn glycogen, because he was kind of doing that. It did seem like that was kind of working at first, although he was still getting caught here and there. Nonetheless though, Francis, he was a different man in there. He was methodical, he was calm, but he had a flow to him that always forced Stipe into respect. You didn't really see much space for Stipe Miocic to strike safely. There was always a real danger. Honestly, I feel like Stipe should have trusted his instincts opposed to forcing an entry, running into the strike. That's what caused the knockout. And I think many of us have already noticed this, haven't we? Even though Francis stands orthodox, his lead hand, it seems to be so very devastating, whether it comes as an uppercut or a lead hook, a check hook. That lead, the way he winds into it and clatters in, his straight can blast his opponent's back. Definitely, that whip he has in his lead hook, truly the concussive force behind it. Often, the moment it connects, that lead hook, it has a tendency of switching his opponents off. It seems to be his most dangerous tool. His backhand can blast you, but his lead hook, even when it's tighter, the moment it touches clean, boom. I like Francis Ngannou's mentality as well. It's a beautiful thing. He said his entire ideology, his entire attitude towards going into a fight is to have fun. But when you see him in that fight, he's very calm, with a strong intention, an intention to crush, as Miyamoto Musashi would say. He just made it feel like it was very difficult to enter on. And that's kind of why we saw Stipe never really feeling his own place to fire. He didn't really feel a window for his own shots. Where would he strike? Where would he go? The moment he entered, if he can't use his momentum to bunt Francis Ngannou out of position, out of footing, balance, would he just be there to eat a shot clean? I think he felt that instinctively, intuitively. He just didn't know how to make his entry early on. I believe his best bet was to just force Francis to work, especially because he did look a lot lighter in there. He didn't look as strong as he did in the first fight. Before, there was definitely more respect behind Stipe striking, and when he went for the takedown, the blast double. But of course, who knows if the wrestling would have worked to the same extent, because the level of improvement, it was truly astounding. He worked really hard to develop himself, and it goes to show, as someone who started so late in the fight game, if your mentality towards learning, growing is humble, there are no limitations for you. It doesn't matter how old you are. Of course, Francis is a freak athlete, no doubt about that. He has a remarkable physical aptitude. One, it's unlike something we've ever really seen, is it? Nonetheless though, that level of improvement, it takes discipline. To not get lost in the power you have and to humbly choose to grow despite that. Because what's an ultimate truth of this reality? It's often the most talented people who unmanifest their talent. They rely on it way too much. They use it as a crutch to succeed in their endeavors. But because of that, they also have a tendency of plateauing. They don't get beyond a certain point, relying on their talent. You only truly see something special when you find a talented individual who also has the temperament to be conscientious, to be hardworking, to be humble towards the hard work. And that's what we can all take from Francis. Despite his physical attributes, it just wasn't enough versus the skills of Stipe Miocic the first time. Physical ability, it just was not enough at the highest level. But when talent meets hard work, when it meets discipline, an eagerness to grow and develop, that's when you create a completely different monster. To that end, may Francis Ngannou, despite his remarkable talent, remind us that if we can find the lesson in our own shortcomings, if we can find the lesson, it doesn't have to be a defeat. It doesn't have to be a failure. Instead, we can choose to look at it like Francis, a victory all the same. For if we are given the opportunity to learn in a reality that's always trying to teach us lessons, in essence, we have already won. Thus, that manifesting as an outcome, it's just the natural progression from there. Thank you, Francis Ngannou, for this lesson. Thank you all for watching. Until next time, peace.
I am so afraid.